we're going to look at some more calculator tips and tricks. Let's go through all of them and let's see how we can use those things for our examination, right? Some of them are going to be helpful in mathematics, and some of them are going to be useful in chemistry, physics, and most definitely computer sciences as well. Okay, so let's go through all the functions one by one and see which functions are going to be helpful for you. That depends on why you're here. Okay. Now, first let's understand how to put in the standard values in the calculator. So students generally what they do is they show, let's say, a number 85, then they multiply this with 10, and then they go into the raised to the power. Let me write that again. So it's 10 multiplied by, and then raised to power, let's say minus 3 or plus 6 or whatever power they want to put in. Then they show that number, or then they use that number. Calculators have a shortcut for this, and that is this button, which is x10x. You simply press this once and just add the power after that. And if you were dealing with 6 or a positive number, then add that number and you will get the answer. Right? So you can see that there is no difference between the two values, as we can see in the previous memory cell as well. So I will advise you to use this button as it saves time. So if you want to multiply two numbers, let's say 54 power minus 5, add brackets, and then the second number, which would be 854, and you may even be able to divide this with let's say this number or under root of this number. You'll get the number, you'll get the answer. Okay, now once you've gotten this answer, if you want to convert this into another power, for example, this is minus 3, which is milli. If you want to go to minus 6, then I'll advise you to use this button, ENG. Instead of manually counting the powers, just press this button, that is ENG. So sometimes pressing it once doesn't do anything. You'll have to press it again, and you can see that now it has converted the power to minus 6. This was added as a safety feature that students don't accidentally press this button and change the orientation. So you'll have to press it once more, but once you do that, it will always function after each press. Now you can see that it has now become minus 9, which is nano. Now, what if we want to go back, let's say, then you'll have to press Shift ENG, then again Shift ENG, and you can see and you can notice that it is bringing the decimal back to the original position, and then press again Shift ENG, and this is its true value. When 10 is raised to power 0, that means it's 1. So this is its true value without the standard form, right? Okay. Now, then we have this fraction button. I would advise you that if you're dealing with multiple divisions or multiple variables that you are supposed to divide, then please avoid using this division symbol. Use this fraction symbol. Okay. All right. Then we have, then we go into the options category, right? We go into the options and we see that there are multiple modes. Some of them will be useful to you, some of them will not be. So let's move to the first and the most common one, which is the table. Yes. Now, what does this do? It actually makes a table for you that you used to do in O levels and A levels when you used to draw a graph. Let's say you have an equation that is given to you. Pressing alpha, we know that it actually gives us this equation. So we are making a function of x, so let's use the power of x. So x square, let's say, this is 8x squared, let's say, minus 4.7 alpha x, right, plus 10. This is the equation that is given to us in a mathematics paper, and you want to convert this, or you want to draw a graph of this equation, or you just want to see what values it's going to get at multiple points. Okay, so after coming to this point, you press equals to. You can store another function, but since we are not going to go through that, we're just going to press equals to again. He asks you what you want for that function that you just wrote down. Okay, so what we do, we start from 0. Okay, we want to start the table from 0, and we want the table to, let's say, end at 5, or let's say a number 10. Okay, then he asks you about the step. What is the difference between the starting and ending point and the values in between? So I choose the step. Now, if the step is 1, it means that it's going to take the values from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, up to 10. If I make the step to go up to 0.5, that means he will take the values from 0, then 0.5, then 1, then 1.5, then 2. So x will traverse with a difference of 0.5. And the calculator will calculate all the values on those points for you. Now then you press equals to make sure that everything is right, and then peak equals to again. You can see that this is the table that it gives you. So what's happening to x? X is changing from 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. And what he has done is put these values in the calculator and given you the value of y that you can just go on and plot on the graph and draw the graph and see what it actually looks like, right? So this is one of the functions that is useful if you want to draw a graph, or you just want to get an idea what the graph may look like. Okay, so this is the table, the option 9. Okay, then we go to the equation function, and we see that we can solve simultaneous equations and we can solve polynomials as well. In simultaneous equations, you will see how many number of unknowns are there. So generally, you in mathematics have to solve x plus y equations. So there are two variables that you want to solve. So you press 2, and you can see that he gives you this matrix of unknown variables, right? So let's say we write 4, then we have 10, and then we have, let's say, 50. And then we put in other values, let's say 6, or let's say 12, right? And then this is 45. Let's say now, since all the values are put in now, you press equals to, he tells you the solution, that what should be the value of x, value should be 12.5, and what should be the value of y, it should be 10. If you put in these values in both of these equations at the same time, you will get these answers of 50 and 45 for the respective equations. So you can see that he can solve simultaneous equations for you. Now, if we go towards polynomial, then he asks you how many degrees are there. So if you raise it to power square, you get that quadratic equation that you solve by completing the square, by taking a midterm breaking rule, by factorization, you will get to this point. So let's write down a typical equation. Okay. And most definitely this is a quadratic equation. Okay. Now you press equals to, it tells you the solution, the minimum and the maximum points of that equation. Okay. Since the numbers are not right, it's giving you a complex solution. If you put in the correct answers, it will give you a true solution as well. Okay. Then we have more simply put base n. This is very useful computer science students, right? So if you have to convert from decimal to binary to hexa, or to octal as well, right? So how do you do that? If you see that these are written in blue over here, but in order for us to convert them between one format to another, first you have to write down the number and you have to store it in the calculator. So let's say you want to convert 500 in decimal to binary. So first you write down that number, press equals to, now it is stored in the calculator. Okay. Now you press, let's say, binary, it will convert 500 into binary. How to represent 500. Okay. And if you press OCT, octal, so it will convert this number into an octet configuration, what 500 would look like in a base 8. And if you press hex, it will convert this into a hexadecimal number, right? If you press decimal again, it's going to bring it back to the decimal number. Okay. So what generally you can do, and similarly, if you go to binary, you cannot write any other number other than 0 and 1. It will give you syntax error. So if you write down a number in the form of binary, something like this, and press equals to, it will store it. Now you press decimal, you can find out what that binary number is in decimal format. It is in hexa format, or it is in octet format, right? So, and not only this, it can perform other functions as well, but sadly this cannot perform decimal functions. So if you have 54 plus 63, this will give you an octet addition, but if you press the decimal number, it will give you the decimal addition, and most definitely it will take you to binary addition answer as well. So this is very useful for computer science students. Then we have matrices, right? We can define a matrix like this, right? Then we can press the options button and it will let us use those matrices. Okay, so let's add numbers into this. So 5, 6, 2, 3, press equals to, and now it is stored. Now we go to define matrix. We press 2, 2, 2. Let's take the standard forms of matrices. So now these matrices are stored. We go to options. We press 3 for matrix 1. It will give me the matrix A that we have stored in it. Okay. Then we press options again. Then we go to point 4. By hitting 4, we get matrix B. And it gives me the matrix B that is stored. Right? So how to perform functions within the matrices. Okay. So what you can do is press option, then go to 3, then plus option 4. So if you press equals to, it's going to perform the addition. If you add minus, it's going to perform the subtraction. Similarly, if you go to options and let's say you want to find the determinant. Okay. So you press 2 and then go to options again. And then whatever matrix you want to find the determinant of, you just put in that matrix. So point 4 is matrix B. So I press equals to, it gives me the determinant in just one step, right? If you want to multiply these two matrices together, one by one, right? So you go to options, you choose that matrix you want to multiply, but I'll advise you to add brackets over there. So then go to options and you want to multiply it matrix with B. So this is going to be your answer, 1 by 1. What if you want to take the cross product, right? So what you do is you choose options, press 3, and then put this multiplication sign to give you a cross product. This will be your cross product answer, right? Okay. Now let's go back to the options menu. So we also have the probability functions stored, some of the probability functions, the stat variables. I'm not familiar with them. So we've done matrices as well. These are the common functions that you can use your calculator to perform functions. Okay, then we go towards the integration symbol. How to do that? Now be advised that you'll have to make sure that if you're dealing with the trigonometric functions, you'll have to choose whether you're dealing with degrees or radians. Generally, it's radians, so you'll have to convert that into this by pressing shift setup. So you go to the angle unit and you'll have to tell the calculator what angle you're using. So it generally is radians. Now, if you put in sine function, tangent function, whatever you want to put over here, it will take them as radians. So shift pi, let's say from pi, you want to go to 3 pi. Okay, now you come at this point, use brackets. I always advise to use brackets, and then add your trigonometric function that you want to use. So sine of, let's say, 5 alpha x. So you have to use x over here because it's a dx function. Okay, now press equals to. It gives us a simple syntax error. So let's try that again. Okay, so this is how it's going to be. So this is your answer for that function. Now, this calculator is unable to give you a variable format answer. It cannot give you, let's say, sine of 5x divided by 5 or something like that. It cannot integrate for you. It can only find the values for you. Okay. Then we have some constants in this calculator, right? So I'm going to reset this. What do you do with the constants? So we have gravitational constants, we have constants from chemistry, we have constants from physics, right? So to access them, you press shift and then this constant digit 7. So first there are some, again, you'll have to explore this on your own, what constants you are very familiar with and what constants you generally require. So press, let's say 1. 1 is universal sometimes, right? So what are those universal constants? We have epsilon naught, we have mu naught permittivity, we have g, the gravitational constant. Now let's access this number 7 for physics. This is a gravitational constant. Its value is supposed to be 6.67 power minus 11. So you can see that it is already stored in the calculator. So again, press shift constant, go to universal. You'll have epsilon naught, which is at number 4, permittivity of space, which is 8.85 power minus 12. It is generally used in the chapter of capacitors. Again, shift constant. Now you can go to electromagnetic, nuclear, atomic physics. Now we press atomic physics, the third part, and it has stored the masses of alpha particles, beta particles, mass of proton, mass of neutron, mass of electron. You'll have to explore all of them. So if you, let's say, press the first button, that is mass of the proton, it is going to be 1.6 power minus 27. So it's right in front of you. Okay, so you'll have to explore this on your own, what constants you want to remember and how to easily and quickly access them. Okay, I think in other format we had the constant of G as well. So adopted values, one is G, right? We have atmospheric pressure, we have the universal gas constant. So if you access G, it will give you the value of gravitational acceleration, which was 9.81, which we use in our calculations. Now, if you go to, let's say, conversions, let's say, you have the conversions of lengths, right? You can go from inches to centimeters, from yards to meters. All those conversions are given to you. You can also convert area, right? You can also convert volume, right? You can also convert mass. But let's say how to do that. Okay, so let's choose option 4. So you want to convert, you'll have to come back on the other side. So if you have to convert 50 kg to pounds, you press equals to and it's going to do that for you. Okay, so if you go to conversion, let's say you want to convert a velocity, press 1, and let's say you want to convert kilometers an hour to meter per second. So press 1 again. So you go back to this side, and let's say you want to convert 50 kilometers an hour to meter per second. So it's going to do that for you over here. Okay, so these are how you're going to use the constants, how you're going to use the converters, right? And one more function that is generally sometimes useful, how to store a value in a variable, right? We already know that if you want to make a function that is, let's say, b square minus alpha d whole divided by, let's say, under root of alpha e, right? We do already know how to make this function. And then we press the calc button. He asks us what is going to be d, what is going to be b. Let's say we put in 8. Then he asks what is d. Let's say we put in 4. He asks what is e. Let's put in 96. And when you put all these numbers into this, it's going to give you the answer as if you put the values into these variables, right? But how do you store the value into a variable that is a, b, c, d, e, f, and x, y, and m? How can you store values in them? So what you can do is simply write down, let's say the number you want to store is 85. So you write 85, and then you press this STO button, right? This is for storage, store. You'll see that there's going to be an arrow highlighted on the calculator. Now you press the variable that you want this number to be stored in. Do you want to store it in A, B, C, D, or whatever variable? So let's say I want to store this in A. When I press A, it shows you that 85 has been stored in letter A, right? Okay. Now you clear the screen. You want to store another number. Let's say I want to store 35. So I press STO and I want to store this in B. So now it has been stored in B. Okay. Now whenever I access A, it will give me 85. Whenever I access B, it will give me 35. That the number that I've just stored manually right now. Okay. And they generally stay in the calculator until the calculator is on. I believe that in some models, it stays in memory until you clear them out. Okay. So if you want to see what numbers have you stored in all the variables, you simply press Shift and then you press STO. So you can see there is a button called Recall. When you press Shift, it accesses all the yellow functions. So when you press Recall, you can see that these numbers are stored in your calculator. So A has 85, B has 35, E has 96. And you remember that we just made a function in which we put the values ourselves. So those numbers are also stored in this calculator right now. Okay. Now, when you reset, let's say Shift, Reset, and you initialize everything and you clear everything, then most definitely if you recall, everything will be put down to 0. So the memory clears out, everything clears out. So I hope that this was an informative video for you, and some of the functions that you were not familiar with may be helpful for you to easily and quickly go through your physics, chemistry, or science exams.